What is the absolute worst thing you can do for your investment portfolio right now? I want you to think about that question for a sec. For me, it is buying the absolute worst stocks. I think that is quite simple. It's something you absolutely do not want to do. But here's the thing. We don't always know what the worst stocks is, at least until you finish the end of this video. But the main question is, what are the worst stocks, the ones you absolutely want to avoid? Why should you avoid these? And for how long are these stocks expected to be terrible? Because a stock that's bad now might not be bad in the future. Let's go ahead and break it down. All right. Now, there are some good things about the stock market. Right now, year to date, we are up right around 4, almost 5%. We know last year, the stock market was up close to about 20% or so. Here's the thing though. There is a concept called inversion that can help you become a better investor. This is one of the bag of tricks that Charlie Munger had. He was the vice chair, the assistant, the Robin to Warren Buffett's Batman. He was the number 2 guy. He died at 99 in 2023. And what inversion is, and what the way he described it, is this. He would think of what is the absolute worst thing that can happen in a situation and basically not do that. Focus on that thing and preventing that thing from happening. And it absolutely does apply to investing because that's what he did, right? And we can use that in this particular scenario. So one example that he used is if he is trying to help out a country, right? He used the country of India. You know, what's the thing that would ruin that particular relationship, and focus on, you know, not doing that. What are the things that are the opposite of that? Inverting it, using it like algebra. I used to be a math teacher. When you invert a problem, you do the opposite, right? You are subtracting on one side of the equation, adding on the other side. Boom. It's very easy to solve. So let's start off with some of the worst stocks that you absolutely want to avoid, and then talk about how it can help us to find some of the best stocks to buy. Now, 2 of the worst stocks right now are Dollar General and Dollar Tree. Both of them that we have talked about, both of these, have not been good stocks for a while. Now, the interesting thing is they do tell us about where the stock market and where the economy have gone and where they are going. And these 2, I think, can, keyword can, come back in style if a few things are to happen. We'll see what those, I'll give you an example of what those things are. But first, these were doing well during the pandemic, during an era where inflation was extremely high, because as I said back then, people who were shopping at Target for some, was very expensive, or more expensive rather, and then you add inflation, became even more expensive. People traded down from Target. Target shoppers went to Walmart. Walmart shoppers went down to Dollar Tree and Dollar General for some things. You can't get everything there. Well, now those people have kind of come back up as inflation fell and just moved to Walmart, and people just stayed at Walmart and Costco. Those are the reasons why Walmart and Costco are good stocks right now and have been so ever since. And the interesting thing is, Target hasn't been, it's improved, but it's not the best stock, and it has fallen off since then. And then you've got Dollar General and Dollar Tree are trash. And it's interesting that those 2 things have kind of compressed. The top of the chain, I'm kind of putting that in air quotes, Target falling off, Dollar Tree and Dollar General falling off, and now they're kind of compressed into the Walmart and Costco's of the world, kind of the value plays that you can buy everything. That tells us that people are looking for more dividends, looking for kind of those buy everything type of places, and that's kind of what we are looking for. However, while they may be bad stocks right now, they could be good stocks if inflation does creep back in. However, and there are a lot of asterisks here, asterisks, I guess is the plural term. You let me know. But we'll need to see how much, if any, I would expect there could be a lot, how much tariffs do play into this. That I don't know. That's something I would investigate. Why am I not investigating it now? Why do I care about a stock that's down as much as those 2 are? I'll put their stats here. I'm not going to spend my time looking deep into a stock that's trash, when I can be looking deep into Tempest AI, which we'll talk about, a stock that's doing quite well. We'll do that in a separate video though. All right, other stocks that you want to avoid right now. We know that chip makers, chip stocks, semiconductors to be specific, have done quite well. On Semiconductor used to be one of those very good stocks you ain't heard me talk about it. I don't think you've heard many people talk about it in quite a while. And the same thing with AMD. Yeah, Advanced Micro Devices used to be a stock that was at the top of the list in terms of, NVIDIA B, right? NVIDIA had always been the star player, but AMD would come up off the bench and do quite well if you always felt that, NVIDIA was overpriced or overrated or something like that. And it just has not been the case. For example, at the time we're doing this video, AMD is down 22% in the last 6 months and down 34% in the last year. That's Intel territory. That is not normal, especially for a tech stock, especially for a semiconductor stock, especially in an era like this when you have most, clearly not all, most other tech stocks and semiconductor stocks doing quite well in an era in an era where the government is still spending that money through the CHIPS Act. That just logically doesn't make sense, but it does connect to the concept. It may connect to the concept that we talked about with Nancy Pelosi still buying shares of NVIDIA and not shares of AMD. Maybe there's something there, okay? Maybe there's something there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you want to know perhaps why she's buying shares of NVIDIA and other things she was buying, you can check out this video right here. All right, continuing. This was a thought, a theory, perhaps a pattern that I was picking up on. We may start to see this, and I made a very thin line here of things to be careful of. Certain healthcare stocks, especially drug makers, Merck and Moderna, two stocks I would be very, very careful of, especially in the next 4 years or so. Both have definitely fallen off. I haven't really been that big of a fan of Merck for several years now. They used to pay a very solid dividend. They may still, but again, why investigate a stock that hasn't done well? And the Moderna, last year, I kind of fell for the okie doke. They had a very good run up for 2.5 months. I thought things were great, and then they weren't. But now that JFK Jr. has been confirmed, I'm sorry, RFK, my apologies. RFK Jr. has been confirmed. Things could get a little interesting and not necessarily in a good way for those stocks. I'm not incredibly excited for where those stocks could go. We did see these stocks start to fall or accelerate their fall, because they were already falling, accelerate their fall once the election happened because his name started to circulate over Health and Human Services. I'm not super excited. Another reason why that's the case is not just because of what he thinks and some of his thoughts, not going to get into that, is because they may stop funding some of that research, and some of that research is going to help them to find new cures, find new treatments, things like that. If that stops, it's going to make things more expensive for some of these companies, and they may not have those solutions. They'll have those solutions. They're either going to have to spend that money themselves, change prices, may not make the same sales, and a whole bunch of other things could be a problem. Also, the government is a customer in some cases for some of their products. What if they're not in the future? That could have some society impacts. That's out of my purview, but it will absolutely have some business impacts too. Humana, which is a health insurer, I would have thought this would have been a relatively safe place to invest. I say relatively because I do like insurance companies. This ain't one of those. So those are some of the ones you do want to avoid. Now again, the thin line in healthcare is I still like a lot like Intuitive Surgical. I like healthcare equipment, not necessarily drug makers. Someone had asked me about Eli Lilly. This must have been almost 2 months ago. Eli Lilly has had a very good, very long track record. I believe I sold, if I didn't sell it all, I definitely took some profits and sold a good chunk of it just because I don't know where things are going to go. My thought is with a company like Eli Lilly, and we could put the performance here too, is I can find something that's going to get a better return. That doesn't make Eli Lilly bad. It just means compared to what I think is out there, there may be something like if Eli Lilly is going to give me 10%, maybe I can find something that gives me 20. We'll see. We'll see if that's going to be the case. But seeing what I'm seeing right on Capitol Hill, it may be some increased risk. And here we go with that inversion tactic, right? If I see that being the worst place to be, right, I'm saying, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? that's the case, let me flip this and not do that, right? So that is kind of what my approach in this. So if those are the worst places to invest, what are some places to consider and what are some resources for that? Some of these we have talked about. I'm going to go just in a little bit detail because again, you can go and search those videos and I'll give you those links here as well. There is a lot of noise in the investing world and it can be overwhelming to figure out what to invest in, how to start, and how to be consistent. Because of that friction, that fear, and that frustration, some people decide not to invest at all. And that means that you are not going to be able to grow your wealth. Well, what if there was something, an app perhaps, that can help you to invest and make it easy and to help you be more consistent as an investor? That is where M1 Finance comes in handy. You can choose your investments and set a target, how much you want to invest in each stock, and they will take care of the rest. Or you can choose one of their pre-made investment pies. For example, right now, this is an 80-20 portfolio. This is a good mix for me, and I've added it, and I am good to go. You can also get a higher interest rate on your uninvested cash with their high yield cash account. With my link, you can get an extra 0.5% on top of the current rate. Check out M1 Finance with a link right here. All right, back to the video. Energy, I've talked about that before. We've seen a lot of motion in energy, not just hedge funds and billionaires putting their money in energy stocks. Target Resources Group, TRGP, we have talked about before. Utility stocks, you can throw energy stocks in that too, depending on how you will look at it. NRG falls into that category as well. Finance stocks are moving up the list quite quickly. I don't necessarily like the fact that some finance stocks, keyword is some, finance stocks are ending up on this list. We might have to do a whole nother, call for activation on this. I'll tell you all about it in just a sec. But a company like American Express, a company I've liked for quite a while, they are doing quite well. So check out finance stocks. I've talked about smaller regional banks too. I'm gonna circle back to that in a sec, but those are some companies that you do want to check out. I've done a few ETFs too that you may want to consider. One thing about finance stocks, again, they were doing well already, and we did expect them to do well. We've already talked about it. However, there was a quiet motion passed. Motion meaning there was a momentum to pass legislation around getting rid of a cap for banks to charge overdraft fees of just $5. So the CFPB, we talked about this before, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they made some changes. We had talked about this. I be on it. When it comes to us and our money, I do be on it. In either case, and if I'm not, y'all tell me in the comments and I get on it. Okay, so in either case, there was a cap put on overdraft fees, so they couldn't charge over $5. There was some motions moving to get that cap removed just on Friday. So that is going to help certain banks. I don't necessarily like that. That may help to move the needle just a bit for some bank stocks. It doesn't make me feel great. I don't like it. Okay, so will that help bank stocks go from good performance to amazing performance? I don't really think it's going to move the needle a ton. Also, you don't have to invest in banks. Again, American Express has a bank, but it's mostly a savings, so it doesn't really affect companies like that. But there could be a lot of regulatory changes that could help the finance industry. Whether you want to invest in it, whether it makes you feel great, is totally up to you. I'm not here to judge on that front. But like I said, finance stocks were doing well before those changes were expected to go in effect. If you want to know other places to invest as well as to get that FDIC letter that we talked about, you want to check out these videos right here.